Okay, so this is like just a really high overview of what it is or how I think about agents, just so everyone understands. And this is also for the business owners or people that want to build AI or do AI or use AI. Like the simplest form of AI, honestly, is a workflow, like to have it in your company. It's a simple workflow. We can define a workflow something like this, right? Where a workflow is literally, there's a start process. Okay, so let's say you want an assistant, a personal assistant that every day sends you emails with the daily updates, right? So the start is the start of the process. The end of the process is the action and the artifact. So the sending of an email with a PDF or something that is the market research, but then it has to make all that market research. There's some steps in the process, right? And that's these little boxes here, right? So you have the start of the process, one process in the middle, the second process, the third process, the fourth process, and then the end. How these are kicked off? Two different ways. There's a trigger. So it's whether you send your assistant a message saying, yo, give me a market research report, boom, it'll trigger it. Or a routine where you set it up on a job in the cloud, let's say that it's a routine every single day at 8 a.m., yada, yada, yada. This is a workflow. So how I would tell somebody to think about implementing AI in their day-to-day is first have a system that you want to copy into an AI system. Same thing if you were to train a VA from the Philippines or anything, you would do the same thing. You would have to write down your process, your standard operating procedures, and then you would hand it off. And ideally, you would have a list of all your standard operating procedures. So this is like 3. Let's say for a personal assistant, this is daily morning briefs. This is calendars, like setting a calendar for the week with considering X, Y, and Z. And the last one could be just reaching out and saying good morning to all your relevant people in your company. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. And then once you have 3 of these, then you can build an agent around it. And the agent is something that, has its own memory, has tools, the ability to call these different workflows. It has its own files for context, right? So what it knows about you, what it knows about itself, and what it knows about the whole system, aka the company that it's working in, which always helps it make decisions. Triggers and routines, like I mentioned, triggers, routines for different workflows. And then obviously a gateway or a way for you to text it, email it, chat with it, etc. And some of these agents don't have to have that because they could just be running in the cloud. And then, so they have the workflows. Agents manage workflows in theory. They kick them off. They're living inside of them. They're the ones that are doing them. They can do multiple at a time. It's like a human being, right? And then in addition to that, there's also context. So all the context that your agents need. So it's context from your second brain, which is like a whole other topic we could discuss, just for the sake of this video. This is like my brain, and I'll give you an example of what that looks like. This is the brain, right? That it fills itself. Agents can write to it. I have a librarian that makes sure that everything goes into the right place. Documents regarding my company, they all live inside of Cut the Edge. We also have plans, like things that we're trying to build, things for our clients, different proposals that we wrote, all inside the brain. And that's like one context area. Another one is Google Drive. It has access to the Google Drive of my company. So, and you tell it how to use it, what you can write to it, what you can read from it. It also has access to your local hard drive if you want to give it. But the idea is you're also giving it a lot of room to understand and learn. And, all these different lines that are giving each workflow the right context. It's very important that you also manage how the context is given to you, the agent, as to not fill its context window, which is what makes it dumb. The more data that an agent has to work with on a run, it doesn't necessarily make it smarter. It can also make it slower. It can also make it dumber because it starts getting confused. And the way you build these workflows out is by really honing in on what context documents you need. So if you were to build a workflow for email, let's say, then you would create first the context document that it would need to ingest is probably your emails from today. And then you would need to probably get another context of how I speak. So this is called a voice MD usually. That's what we do. And this is also stored in context somewhere. And then you would also have another context file that you would bring in, which is basically, everything about our company or company norms, I guess. I'm exaggerating here, but the idea is all of these are things that we would connect with this workflow. And then we would definitely, we would want to mitigate this workflow, pulling in context documents related to I don't know, future plans of the company, our strategy, or things related to our branding, right? That's not really relevant, and you want to gate that off. You only want to make sure that it gets what it needs, and that requires you to know what each workflow needs. So more than just that, you need to think about A, what does a workflow need? And B, when it needs it, what processes can we break it down into even smaller sub-processes so that each one can do something separate with it. So the first process, for example, would literally pull directly from here. Whoa, 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 let me in. So you would literally have it. Oh, it's crazy. Whatever, long story short, and now, once you know what your workflow looks like, you know what context it needs, the best way to look at it now is to start breaking down the sub-processes, which are these. And these are literally skills. They're like pre-packaged things that do something very, very small, very, very well. So like, for example, this one could be a skill literally designed to pull emails, but all the relevant emails for this specific daily brief that you do. So it's emails from like your primary folder. So you would create a skill that pulls all your primary folder things at when it's called, and it gives it back to you in a format that you want. The next one can be to create like a morning brief designed in a way that you're used to and that you like. And this skill does that really well. So this skill would hand off its information to this skill, which would then hand it off to, other skills that are slowly creating the final form. Let's say this one is creating the PDF. And then this skill is the one that actually sends the email with the PDF with everything it did before, right? So like, you need to know which skill requires which context, which skill handles which integrations, so with Google, with Gmail, whatever. And that's it. And once you can isolate all the different workflows in your company, and you have them all listed down, you know where you can access all your context from, and then you could start defining your agent. And once you have your agent defined and you give it a confined area to work in, then you're automated.